$5,000 a month. That is the kind of revenue that would make any small business owner in America proud. But what if I told you that this money is not being generated in a sleek downtown storefront, but on a dusty crossroads in a rural province of Vietnam? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tom. Today, we are looking at a 45-year-old mother named Nhung. She sells banh mi, a traditional Vietnamese sandwich, alongside sticky rice from a modest street cart. However, Nhung did not start this business to chase wealth or fulfill a startup dream. She is standing out here in the scorching heat and pouring rain because her daughter is battling a severe, life-threatening medical condition, and the hospital bills are astronomical. When the regular job market could not offer a high-paying role to save her family, she had to create her own miracle. Her secret weapon is a century-old heirloom fish sauce recipe passed down through generations, a flavor completely unlike any industrial sauce you will find on the shelves today. How did she turn a simple street cart and a family recipe into a $5,000 a month lifeline? In today's video, we are going to show you the entire process from beginning to end and uncover the exact secrets behind her success. The air around us right now is thick with the smell of exhaust fumes and the distant hum of heavy trucks. This crossroads is chaotic, dusty, and loud. But right in the center of it all, there is an oasis of incredible aromas. Freshly baked bread and savory, slow-roasted meats. This is where I found Nhung. Nhung, thank you so much for taking a moment away from your busy cart to speak with me today. It is truly an honor to meet you.
Thank you, Tom. It is a pleasure to meet you too. Please excuse the noise and the smoke. This corner never really sleeps.
That chaotic energy is exactly what drew me here. But what I really want to know is, how did you end up right here on this specific corner selling banh mi and sticky rice? What was the spark that started this entire operation?
It was not a grand business plan, Tom. It was pure survival. About 3 years ago, my entire world stopped spinning. My daughter was diagnosed with a very severe, life-threatening medical condition, the kind that requires relentless treatments and specialists we simply could not afford. The hospital gave us a staggering estimate, thousands of dollars a month, and I had absolutely nothing in my savings account.
That is a weight no parent should ever have to bear. How did you even process that kind of news?
Panic at first. I was completely frantic. I went out looking for any job I could find. I went to cleaning services, local factories, and small shops. But I am 45 with no advanced degrees and no specialized training. The managers looked at my age and offered me entry-level wages. I sat down and did the math on a napkin. Even if I worked 20 hours a day, manual labor would never cover half of one hospital visit. I realized quickly that society did not have a high-paying, light-duty job waiting for a desperate mother. No one was going to come and save us. I had to save us myself.
That is the harsh reality of the world we live in. We're often told that hard work guarantees security, but when a sudden health crisis strikes, that illusion shatters. So, out of that sheer desperation, why choose food? And specifically, why banh mi at this dusty intersection?
Because people always need to eat, especially working class people on the move. I noticed this intersection had heavy traffic early in the morning. Laborers, truck drivers, office workers heading into the city, they do not have time to sit down for a meal. Banh mi is fast, it is filling, and if made right, it is unforgettable. I did not have the capital for a real restaurant with walls and a roof. I had to start with what I could push on wheels.
But there are street food carts on almost every block. How did you know your cart would stand a chance against vendors who had been doing this for decades?
I did not know for sure, but I had one hidden advantage. When I was a little girl, my grandfather used to make a special fish sauce. It was a closely guarded family secret, an heirloom recipe. After he passed away, the recipe just sat in an old notebook. gathering dust in a drawer. Most people today use cheap, mass-produced industrial sauce because it saves time and a lot of money. I decided that if I was going to do this, I would do it the way he taught me. I believe that true quality, something authentic and deeply traditional, would eventually cut through the noise.
That is a massive leap of faith. You are standing on the edge of financial ruin, your daughter is fighting a terrible medical battle, and you bet everything on a family recipe and a street corner.
When you are backed into a corner with no way out, you do not feel fear the same way anymore. Every morning I woke up before dawn, and the thought of my daughter in that hospital bed pushed me out the door. This cart became my battlefield. Every single sandwich I sold was a fraction of a medical bill paid.
It is incredible how hardship can forge such an unbreakable entrepreneurial spirit. You built a safety net out of thin air, but it could not have been easy in the beginning.
The first few weeks were brutally hard. I would stand here for 12 hours, breathing in dust, sometimes selling only 20 or 30 sandwiches. The income was barely enough to cover the ingredients, let alone the treatments. There were nights I came home, looked at my daughter sleeping, and just wept quietly so I would not wake her. I questioned everything I was doing.
What was the turning point? How did you go from 30 sandwiches a day to generating $5,000 a month?
The turning point was not a clever marketing trick. It was the sauce. Initially, I was rationing the heirloom fish sauce because it took so long to make. I was using it sparingly to save money. One night, I decided to stop holding back. I marinated the roasted meat in it overnight, exactly the way my grandfather instructed, completely undiluted. The next morning, the aroma coming from my cart changed. It was intoxicating. People walking by literally stopped in their tracks.
So leaning into your heritage, using the genuine article, is what finally spoke to the customers.
Exactly. By the third day of doing that, I had a line of 10 people waiting before I even fired up the grill.
We have heard the incredible why behind your business, Nyung. Now, I want to pull back the curtain and show our viewers the how. A lot of people watching right now might think that running a street food cart is as simple as making a sandwich and handing it to a customer. But generating $5,000 a month from a small metal cart requires a highly optimized system. Let us break down the mechanics of your daily operation. Walk me through a typical 24 hours in your life.
It is a relentless cycle, Tom. My day actually begins at 2 in the morning. While the rest of the town is completely silent, I am in my kitchen. The first step is the meat. I go through about 50 pounds of pork every single day. I do not buy pre-sliced, processed meat from a distributor. I go directly to the local market before the sun comes up to handpick the freshest cuts. If the fat to meat ratio is not absolutely perfect, the sandwich will be dry.
50 pounds of meat a day, prepared in a small home kitchen. That alone is a massive undertaking. But before we even get to the meat, let us talk about the foundation of any good banh mi, the bread. I noticed your baguettes look very different from the ones sold by the vendor just a mile down the road.
The bread is exactly where most street vendors make their first fatal mistake. In this business, margins are tight, so vendors usually buy the cheapest baguettes they can find, maybe costing them 10 cents a piece. Those cheap loaves are dense, doughy, and they turn into a soggy sponge the moment you add any sauce. I pay almost double that amount for my bread. I partner with an independent traditional baker on the edge of town. He uses a wood-fired brick oven. The crust is so thin and crisp that it shatters like fragile glass when you bite into it, but the inside is incredibly airy. It holds the structural integrity of the sandwich together, no matter how much sauce you pour over the meat.
Paying double for your base ingredient when you are desperately trying to pay medical bills, that goes against conventional survival economics. Did you ever hesitate to spend that extra money?
Every single day in the beginning, it terrified me. But I realized that if my product was just average, I would be competing on price, fighting for pennies. By having the best bread in a 5-mile radius, I stopped competing on price and started competing on quality. Customers are willing to pay a premium if the experience is genuinely superior.
That is a masterclass in product differentiation. Do not race to the bottom, elevate the standard. Let us talk about the location. We are standing at a very specific 3-way intersection. It is loud, the exhaust fumes are intense, and there is no shade. Why here? Why not a quieter street near the schools or the local park?
You have to look at the traffic patterns, not the comfort. A park is peaceful, but people go there to relax, not to grab a fast meal before a grueling 10-hour shift. This specific intersection is the bottleneck connecting the main residential district to the largest industrial zone in the province. Between 6 and 8 in the morning, thousands of motorcycles and trucks are forced to slow down right here because of the sharp curve. I position my cart exactly where they hit the brakes. They do not even have to park. They can hand me $1 through their window, and I hand them a hot meal in less than 15 seconds.
So you turned a frustrating traffic bottleneck into a drive-through window. That is brilliant spatial awareness. But let us get to the heart of the matter. The element that transformed this cart from a desperate attempt at survival into a highly profitable machine, the heirloom fish sauce. Tell me about this century-old process.
Commercial fish sauce is made in factories in a matter of weeks, diluted with water, loaded with synthetic preservatives, and artificially colored. My grandfather's method requires extreme patience. It is an artisanal fermentation process. We use only wild-caught anchovies and sea salt packed tightly into heavy wooden barrels. And then we wait. It takes 12 to 15 months for the proteins to break down naturally in the intense tropical heat. The liquid that is eventually drawn from the barrel is not just salty. It has a deep, complex, savory flavor that artificial chemicals can never replicate.
12 to 15 months of waiting. That means you are constantly forecasting your inventory more than a year in advance. If you run out, you cannot just run to a wholesale warehouse to restock.
Exactly. It requires meticulous planning. Every gallon I serve today was barreled more than a year ago, back when my daughter was at her absolute weakest, and I did not even know if we would survive the month. Opening a barrel now is like opening a time capsule of my own tears and prayers from last year.
That adds an incredible emotional weight to every single sandwich you serve. But Nyung, I have tasted this sauce. There is something else in there. Yes, it has the rich umami of traditional fermentation, but there is an earthy, almost smoky sweetness at the finish that cuts right through the salt. It is completely unique. You mentioned your grandfather left detailed instructions. What is the hidden ingredient you are putting into this sauce during the roasting process?
You have a very sharp palate, Tom. Most people just think it is a special type of sugar or maybe a rare pepper.
I know it is not just sugar. There is a botanical element to it. Can you reveal what it is? We will not tell anyone.
I will not give you the exact name because it is the only thing protecting my livelihood, but I will tell you this. It is a very specific type of wild berry that only grows deep in the mountainous forests near the border. It can only be harvested during the peak of the rainy season. My grandfather discovered that if you crush these berries and steep them in the sauce during the final month of aging, it neutralizes the sharp, aggressive odor of the fish and replaces it with that warm, earthy finish you tasted. Sourcing it is incredibly difficult and expensive, but without it, the sauce is just ordinary.
A wild forest berry harvested in the rain. That is incredible. It is not just food anymore, it is an absolute craft. And you do all of this, the meat prep, the sourcing of premium bread, managing a complex fermentation supply chain, and standing in this harsh weather all by yourself.
I am out here for 10 hours and I prep for another 6. My feet ache constantly, my hands are permanently calloused from the hot grill, and my lungs are always filled with road dust. It is physically destroying me. But every time the pain gets too sharp, I just close my eyes and picture the latest medical scan results. I picture the doctors telling me the treatments are working. The physical toll on my body is a small price to pay to keep my family whole.
Let us shift our focus from the kitchen to the battlefield of the open market. You are pulling in $5,000 a month in a region where the average monthly wage is a tiny fraction of that amount. That kind of volume does not just happen by accident. Most modern startups burn through thousands of dollars in digital advertising just to acquire their first 100 customers. What was your initial marketing budget, and how did you get the community to notice a brand new street cart?
My marketing budget was exactly $0. I did not even have enough money to print a colorful plastic banner. I simply had a small piece of cardboard with the words "Traditional Bind Me" written in heavy black marker. But I realized very quickly that when you are selling food on the street, your most powerful advertising tool is not visual. It is olfactory. The wind at this intersection usually blows from the east to the west, carrying the harsh exhaust fumes away, but carrying the scent of my grill directly into the long line of morning traffic. I started roasting the meat specifically during peak rush hour. The heavy smoke, infused with that heirloom fish sauce and the wild berries, would travel hundreds of feet down the road. People were smelling my product long before they could even see my cart. It was involuntary marketing.
Scent marketing, in its purest, most primitive form, that is absolutely fascinating. Once they stopped their vehicles, the product had to speak for itself. But success breeds imitation, and on the street, it often breeds intense jealousy. You mentioned earlier that this corner was already crowded with veteran vendors. When a newcomer suddenly starts commanding a massive line of customers, how did the local ecosystem react?
The reaction was hostile, Tom. Very hostile. When you disrupt the local economy of a street corner, people feel deeply threatened. Within the first 3 months, when my line started blocking the sidewalk, the retaliation began. At first, it was just dirty looks and loud whispers. Then, 2 other established vendors suddenly changed their entire menu to sell banh mi, trying to copy my exact setup. They even lowered their prices to $1 single, undercutting me significantly.
A classic price war. That is usually the quickest way small businesses destroy each other. How did you defend your market share when the cart right next to you was selling a seemingly similar product for 30% less?
I did absolutely nothing. I maintained my price, and I fiercely maintained my quality. I knew their bread was cheap, and their sauce was completely synthetic. A few of my regular customers did drift over to them to save a little money. It stung my pride, I will admit that. But within 4 days, every single one of those lost customers came back to my cart. They told me the competitor's sandwich tasted like ash and salt compared to mine. That was a profound lesson for me in business. If your core product is truly exceptional, you do not need to engage in a race to the bottom. Your loyal customers will protect your business model.
That takes nerves of steel to wait out a price war when you have hospital bills pending. But the hostility did not stop at pricing, did it? I have heard stories about the fiercely territorial nature of street vendors. Did anyone try to cross the legal line?
They did. When the price war failed to break me, someone anonymously reported my cart to the local municipal ward, claiming I was creating a massive traffic hazard and violating severe sanitation codes. One morning, the local inspectors arrived in their official trucks. They were ready to shut my operation down and confiscate my equipment. I was completely terrified. If they took my cart away, they took my daughter's medical treatments away. My heart was pounding out of my chest.
How do you survive a regulatory shutdown when you have no legal team and no political connections in the city?
Complete transparency and overwhelming community support. I did not argue or yell at the officers. I respectfully opened every single cooler and showed the inspectors my pristine ingredients. I showed them the thick stack of medical bills I carried in my apron pocket. But more importantly, the community stepped in for me. The truck drivers and the heavy laborers who were waiting in line actually surrounded my cart. They spoke up directly to the inspectors, vouching for my cleanliness and explaining that my food was the only decent hot meal they received all day. The inspectors saw the overwhelming public support, gave me a minor verbal warning about keeping the line organized, and left. That day, I realized I had not just built a customer base, I had built a community of advocates who were willing to defend me.
That is an incredibly powerful moment. You transformed anonymous commuters into a protective shield for your brand. Now, looking at this high volume, the natural instinct for any entrepreneur is rapid expansion. Why not hire 3 employees, build 3 more carts, and dominate every major intersection in the province?
Because of the sauce, Tom. It is the absolute bottleneck of my entire operation. I can only ferment a specific amount each year based on the rare wild berries I can source from the mountains. If I opened 3 more carts, I would have to dilute the sauce with water to make it stretch. The exact moment I do that, the flavor profile drops, the magic disappears, and I become just another average street vendor. I refuse to compromise the legacy of my grandfather for quick expansion. Furthermore, finding employees who care about the microscopic details, like the exact crispness of the bread or the perfect fat ratio in the meat, is nearly impossible. I am operating at maximum capacity for 1 human being, and for now, that is exactly where I need to be to ensure perfection.
The discipline to say no to rapid expansion is incredibly rare. Many businesses scale themselves right into bankruptcy by losing control of their quality. But surely you must have made at least one major miscalculation along the way. What was your most expensive mistake?
Very early on, during a week when the medical bills were unusually high, I panicked. I tried to increase my profit margin by purchasing a slightly cheaper cut of pork. It still looked fine to the naked eye, but it lacked the proper marbling. I served it for exactly 1 morning. By noon, 2 of my most loyal truck drivers came back and quietly told me the sandwich was dry and tough. My heart sank into my stomach. I had betrayed their trust to save a few dollars. I immediately threw away 30 pounds of cooked meat, taking a massive financial loss for the entire day. I looked at that wasted food and made a solemn vow to myself. I would rather close the cart for the day and make $0 than serve a compromised product. Trust takes years to build, but it can be destroyed in a single bite.
In this channel, we believe in absolute transparency. The stories of struggle and triumph are incredibly inspiring, but to truly understand a business, we have to open the ledger and look at the raw mathematics. We have established that you are generating $5,000 a month in profit from this very corner. In a region where the average worker might make $300 a month, your cart is an absolute financial anomaly. I want to break down your unit economics. Walk me through the exact numbers behind a single day of operation.
I appreciate that you want to look at the reality of the numbers, Tom, because it is the only way people can truly understand what it takes to survive. On an average day, I sell roughly 200 banh mi sandwiches and about 50 portions of sticky rice. I charge exactly $2 for a sandwich and $1.50 for a portion of sticky rice. That brings my daily gross revenue to approximately $475. If I work every single day of the month, which I do, that is over $14,000 in gross sales every 30 days.
$14,000 in gross sales from a metal cart on a sidewalk. That is staggering. But revenue is just vanity. Profit is sanity. Let us subtract your operating costs. You mentioned earlier that you refuse to compromise on quality. You buy premium bread and hand-pick your meat. How much does that cost you daily?
The ingredients are expensive, but they are non-negotiable. The premium baguettes cost me 20 cents each, so for 200 sandwiches, that is $40 a day. The pork is my largest expense. I buy 50 pounds of highly specific, well-marbled cuts every morning. At $3 a pound, that is $150 daily. Then we have the fresh vegetables, the cilantro, the pickled daikon and carrots, the charcoal for the grill, and the packaging, which adds another $50 to my daily expenses. So my daily operating cost just to open the cart is roughly $240.
Let me do the math on that. If you are bringing in $475 in revenue and spending $240 on premium ingredients, your daily net profit is $235 over a 30-day month. That is over $7,000. But you mentioned your take home is closer to $5,000. Where is the discrepancy?
The discrepancy comes from the sticky rice ingredients, the occasional slow day due to heavy monsoon rains, and the cost of preparing my heirloom fish sauce. While the anchovies and sea salt are relatively cheap, the rare wild berries I source from the mountains are incredibly expensive to transport. Furthermore, I have to maintain a small storage facility for the wooden fermentation barrels. When you factor in those hidden costs and weather fluctuations, my consistent, reliable net profit settles right at that $5,000 mark.
Even at $5,000, you are operating at a net profit margin that would make any restaurant owner in America incredibly jealous. Most brick-and-mortar restaurants are thrilled to scrape by with a 10 or 15% margin. You are retaining a massive portion of your cash flow because you have eliminated the burden of high commercial rent and heavy utility bills. By all traditional business metrics, you are highly successful. You are making executive-level money.
The margins look beautiful on paper, Tom, but the reality of where that money goes is completely different. People see the long line of customers, they see the cash changing hands, and they assume I am building a massive savings account or planning to buy a big house. But I want to show you my actual expense sheet.
You have a binder with you. What is inside?
This is not a business ledger. These are hospital invoices from the past 36 months. Every single receipt for my daughter. I do not own a car. I do not own a home. I rent a tiny one-bedroom apartment. My personal living expenses are absolutely minimal. The brutal truth is that 80% of that $5,000 bypasses my bank account entirely and goes directly to the medical facility.
80%. That means $4,000 a month goes straight into medical care.
Exactly. Every dollar is accounted for before I even earn it. $4,000 pays for the specialized medical infusions, the overnight ward fees, the imported medications, and the continuous monitoring equipment. That money is the literal barrier keeping my daughter with me. I am not building generational wealth on this corner, Tom. I am buying time. Every sandwich I hand over to a customer pays for a few more minutes, a few more hours of her life.
That is profoundly moving, Jung. It completely redefines the concept of a successful business. For most entrepreneurs, a bad month means they cannot take a vacation or they have to delay upgrading their equipment. For you, a bad month is not an option. It is a matter of absolute survival. The pressure to maintain this cash flow must be agonizing.
It is a weight that never lifts. If the monsoon rains flood the streets and traffic stops for 2 days, I am not just losing revenue, I am losing the ability to pay for the next round of treatments. I cannot afford to be sick. I cannot afford to be tired. The financial analysis of this cart is very simple. If the grill stops burning, the medical treatments stop flowing. That is why I am out here at 4 a.m. every single day, no matter how much my body aches. The money is not a trophy, it is a lifeline.
Let us step away from the numbers for a moment. Hearing about that immense financial pressure, it is hard to imagine how you carry it all on your shoulders day after day. But looking back at these last 3 years of standing on this dusty crossroads through the monsoon rains and the blistering heat, what is the single moment that makes you the proudest? The moment that makes all the physical exhaustion fade away?
It was just last month, Tom. For the first 2 years, every visit to the hospital was filled with heavy news or uncertain timelines. But last month, we went in for a major medical scan. The doctor looked at the results, looked up at me, and smiled for the very first time. He told me her condition was stabilizing. The relentless treatments were finally pushing the illness back. I came back to the cart that afternoon, fired up the grill, and for the first time in years, I was not crying out of fear, I was crying out of sheer gratitude. Every single baguette I had toasted, every late night I spent brewing that sauce, it all culminated in that doctor's smile. I realized I had actually done it. The cart had done exactly what it was supposed to do.
That is the ultimate return on investment. No profit margin or business metric can ever compare to that kind of news. You built a fortress around your family using nothing but a charcoal grill and a family recipe. But as her health continues to improve and hopefully requires less intensive care in the near future, what is your next objective? You cannot stand out here breathing in heavy exhaust fumes forever. What is the ultimate vision for this business?
You are completely right. My body cannot sustain this brutal pace for another decade. My ultimate goal is to step away from the street cart entirely. I want to take my grandfather's heirloom sauce, the exact formula with the wild mountain berries, and bottle it for retail. I want to create a premium, artisanal product that can be sold in high-end grocery stores and shipped across the entire country. If I can build a proper production facility for the sauce, I will create a passive income stream that will finally give me the one thing I have not had in 3 years, which is time. Time to just sit at home and be a mother to my daughter instead of being a machine on the street.
Bottling that sauce is a brilliant pivot. It takes your absolute best asset, the unique flavor profile that nobody else can replicate, and separates it from your physical labor. But making the leap from a street vendor to a retail manufacturer is a completely different battlefield. Here is a concrete action plan for you, Nyung. First, you must legally protect the intellectual property. Do not reveal the name of that mountainberry to anyone, but you need to trademark your brand name immediately. Second, you do not need to build a massive factory right away. You need a co-packer. Find a small, certified commercial kitchen that can help you scale the fermentation process while strictly adhering to health department regulations. Start by producing a limited run of 500 bottles. You have a built-in focus group right here at this intersection. Sell those first bottles directly to your most loyal truck drivers and commuters. Let them take it home to their families. If they love it on your sandwiches, they will buy it for their own kitchens. Use that initial revenue to fund the next batch. You have already mastered the hardest part, which is creating a product people crave. Now you just need to bottle the magic. We have covered incredible ground today. Nyung, your story is a profound reminder that the most powerful business engine in the world is not a massive venture capital fund, nor is it a complex digital marketing strategy. It is the sheer, unstoppable will to protect the people we love. You have proven 2 vital lessons today. First, you do not need a perfect business plan or a massive initial investment to start. You just need an uncompromising commitment to quality. And second, true competitive advantage often lies in the traditions and heritage we already possess if we are brave enough to utilize them.
Thank you, Tom, for giving me this platform to share my reality. If I have any advice for someone out there facing an impossible situation, or for anyone wanting to start their own business from nothing, it is this: you must find an anchor for your mind. The physical labor will absolutely exhaust you, and the daily financial anxiety will try to break your spirit. For me, survival was never just about calculating the daily profit. I highly recommend that everyone should read the Bible every night. That quiet time was the only thing that gave me the mental strength to wake up at 2 a.m. when the world was entirely dark. It reminded me that even on the hardest days, I was never truly standing on that street corner alone.
That is a beautifully grounding perspective, Nyung. A resilient mindset is the absolute foundation of any enduring success in business and in life. To everyone watching at home, I want to hear your voice. Head down to the comments below and tell me, what is the biggest driving force in your life right now? What is the one thing that keeps you moving forward when the odds are completely stacked against you? If you found value in Nyung's incredible journey today, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so we can keep bringing you these deep, unfiltered dives into the reality of entrepreneurship. Remember, a truly successful business is not just about making a living, it is about making a life possible. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.